Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's good to see you guys again. It's been a while. I hope you guys have been on your journey of education and ma'rifah towards the Imam of your time. And what better time to increase in our ma'rifah than the month of Muharram, where we'll be starting today a new series, which is a question and answer series, which was requested by the viewers for the episodes of Jumah nights, where some details were not covered. So inshallah, we'll be starting today with a few questions with regards to Imam al-Hussain. So we're starting off with a question with regards to Imam al-Hussain, where I've got a list of questions here that I've gathered that we'll be answering during the course of these episodes. The question reads, Assalamu alaikum. I have a question with relation to the knowledge of the Imams about their deaths, as you spoke about Imam al-Hussain's mission in your lectures but didn't address this point. People ask this question especially about Imam al-Hussain. If he knew that he would be killed in Karbala, then why did he go? Is this not considered a kind of suicide? And by extension, the rest of the Imams who ate food knowing that it would be poisoned and they would die from it. Can you explain how we square these beliefs? Thank you. This is from Brother Ali from London. We thank the brother for his question. With regards to the question about the knowledge of the Imams about their deaths, it is clearly a part of Shia theology that we believe that the Imams ﷺ knew about the times of their deaths and only died with their own permission. So the angel of death, when he would come to them, he would ask for their permission, and all of the Imams are the same. Today we'll focus specifically on the mission of Imam al-Hussain, and inshallah by answering the question for Imam al-Hussain, that will give the answer for the rest of the Imams alayhimus salam. The first three things I want to look at in order to answer this question are the interactions of Imam al-Hussain with his brother Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah before leaving to go to Karbala. Because these interactions show us the reasons why Imam al-Hussain actually left to go to Karbala, or left on this mission of not giving bay'ah to Yazid and being in the position that he was. He did that for these reasons, and he mentions them in the letters to Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah. We're reading from Bihar al-Anwar, volume number 44, page 329. One of the letters, it says, and this is the most famous one that you will hear in most of the lectures. Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam says, وَأَنِّي لَمْ أَخْرُجْ أَشِرًا وَلَا بَطِرًا وَلَا مُفْسِدًا وَلَا ظَالِمًا. He says, I've not left in order to cause any issues, to cause any fitna, to cause any oppression. وإنما خرجت لطلب الإصلاح في أمة جدي صلى الله عليه وآله أريد أن آمر بالمعروف وأنهى عن المنكر. He says that I've only left to seek reform in the nation of my grandfather. I wish to enjoin the good and forbid the evil. وأسير بسيرة جدي وأبي علي بن أبي طالب. So he says, I want to walk on the path of Rasulullah and the path of Amir al-Mu'mineen. This is the first reason Imam al-Hussain gives. He says, I'm seeking reform. Now this is a apparent meaning and also a theological one, and we'll do this separation in this episode. A apparent meaning and a theological meaning. That's the first letter. The second letter, Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, he says to Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah, it's a very, very short letter. He starts off, he says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, min al-Hussain ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib ila Bani Hashim. He says this letter, he begins in the name of Allah, is from Hussain ibn Ali to Banu Hashim. He says, أما بعد فإنه من لحق بي منكم استشهد. He says, from those from you that will enter this mission with me, who will come along with me, they will be martyred. ومن تخلف لم يبلغ الفتح والسلام. He says, and the one who turns away from me, he will not see the victory. Look at this kind of juxtaposition that Imam uses. He says, whomsoever comes with me, he's going to be martyred, which is a perceived loss. But he says, the one who turns away from me will not see the victory. So this is the second letter, and this is a deep theological understanding that Imam al-Hussain is giving here. The third letter is also to Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah, and this is an interaction here. Imam al-Hussain says to Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah that he's leaving to go towards Karbala. Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah asks him, فَمَا هَدَاكَ عَلَى الْخُرُوجِ عَاجِلًا. What's made you to want to leave so quickly? Imam al-Hussain responds, Atani Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi ba'dama faraqtuka faqala. He says, Rasulullah came to me after I had left you, and he said to me, Ya Hussein, ukhruj fa inna Allah qad sha'a an yaraka qatilan. He says, Oh Hussein, leave and go towards Kufa, because Allah has wished to see you martyred, to see you killed. فقال محمد ibn al-Hanafiya, إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. He says, it is from Allah that we have come, and to Allah we will return. Then he asks the questions, فما معنى حملك هؤلاء النساء معك وأنت تخرج على مثل هذا الحال. He says, what is the reason therefore then of you taking these women with you and these children with you if you're leaving and you know this is the situation that you're going to face? Imam al-Hussain responds, إن الله قد شاء أن يراهن سبايا فسلم عليه ومضى. He says that Allah has wished to see them as prisoners. So he said salam to Muhammad ibn Hanafiya and he left. So these three letters, we can see a profound message from them. One, of complete submission to Allah's will. Because he mentions Rasulullah, he says, Rasulullah came to me in my dream. He told me, you have to leave. You have to go, right, towards Karbala. Allah has wished to see you martyred. And as for the woman, Allah has wished for them to be seen as prisoners. These three letters give us a profound understanding of the apparent reason for Imam al-Hussain going towards Karbala and the theological reasons. And that is where we're going to separate between the apparent and the theological. Because when we look at the apparent position of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, it's not just the Shia that believe that Imam al-Hussain knew he was going to be killed in Karbala. Famously, in many Sunni narrations, it's mentioned, even in Musnad Ahmad ibn Hanbal, it's mentioned that when Imam al-Hussain was born, Rasulullah received Jibra'il, and Jibra'il told him that this son of yours is going to be killed by the Ummah. And he gave him some sand from the sand of Karbala, and it turned red. Rasulullah began to cry at that moment. Rasulullah knew that Imam al-Hussain is going to be killed. So this was foretelling by Rasulullah on the apparent level as well. Rasulullah foretold this. Imam Ali alayhi salam foretold this. Imam Ali bought land in Karbala in preparation for what was going to happen. He raised Al-Abbas in preparation for what was going to happen in Karbala. It was also foretold by Amir al-Mu'mineen. Imam al-Hassan also foretold it. He says, La yawmaka yawmaka ya Aba Abdullah. There's no day like your day, ya Aba Abdullah. So all of the Prophet has foretold it, Imam Ali has foretold it, Imam al-Hassan has foretold it. This is something that everybody was aware this is going to happen to Imam al-Hussain among the Ahlulbayt alayhim salam. So when you look at this foretelling or this prophecy, this isn't the first time someone is being prophesied to be killed. We look, for example, at the prophecy that Rasulullah gave to Ammar ibn Yasir. Rasulullah said, Ya Ammar, sataqtuluka fi'atun baghya. He says that, oh Ammar, a rebellious group is going to kill you. So that's foretelling from Rasulullah to Ammar ibn Yasir. Now, if we are saying that Imam al-Hussain, because he knew that he would be killed in Karbala, by going he committed suicide, you could say the same thing about Ammar ibn Yasir. Ammar ibn Yasir was told by Rasulullah that you will be killed by a rebellious group. So would Ammar ibn Yasir therefore, should he have not fought in any wars after that? Should he have not went to battle against any rebellious groups knowing that he'd be killed there? So you can see that there is foretelling that happens with regards to multiple people and their shahadat. That doesn't necessitate that there was any suicide committed. This was just foretelling and it happened. This is on the apparent level. We're still speaking on the apparent level. Then we see the apparent reason that Imam al-Hussain, he says, إِنَّمَا خَرَجْتُ لِطَالِبِ الْإِسْلَافِ أُمَّةِ جَدِّي. I'm looking for reform in the nation of my grandfather. I want to walk upon the path of my grandfather and Amir al-Mu'mineen. So you can see here that he's giving a reason. He's saying that I can see that good is no longer followed and evil is not being advised against. So he's speaking here in terms of exposure. He's trying to show that the Khilafah at the time is not representative of Rasulullah, is not representative of the values and the morals that Rasulullah left behind. So this is an apparent reason for him to stand up against Yazid, to say that I am rising against a tyrant, and this individual, he's not allowing the religion to be followed in the correct way. So I'm standing against him. That is also not an act of suicide. That is a righteous act that Rasulullah praised, that the Imams praised, that we know that this is a praiseworthy act. The best thing, the best form of jihad someone can do is to speak a word of truth in the face of a tyrannical ruler. This is the hadith of Rasulullah. So this apparent reason, he is standing against oppression. He's not going to Karbala for no reason, knowing that he will be killed for no reason, without any understanding of why he's going. No, he's going to Karbala with a reason. He's going to Kufa actually. This is the most thing that is important in the apparent position. Imam al-Hussain was not going towards Karbala. Obviously, he knew that he would end up there. But Imam al-Hussain, on the apparent level, he's going to Kufa, where he's been summoned. It's only halfway that he is now diverted towards Karbala. So Imam al-Hussain, not even can you say in the apparent level that he was going towards Karbala. His journey was towards Kufa. So how can you then say that Imam al-Hussain, he committed suicide? On the apparent level, it's very, very clear that Imam al-Hussain was forced to do what he was forced to do. When he was in Mecca, he didn't want bloodshed to occur in Mecca. He left Mecca. He's forced to do that. When he was called towards Kufa, that is the place where Imam al-Hussain would be granted safety, right? Because he's been summoned by the people and he will be safe there. So he's also forced to go towards Kufa. And even on the way, he's forced to go towards Karbala by the army of Yazid. So where in this scenario that you have made for yourselves does Imam al-Hussain go towards Karbala for no reason, or die for no reason, or kill himself? None of this happens. This is not suicide on the apparent level. Now we speak about the theological level. The theological level is the one that requires a little bit more explanation. Because on the theological level, we believe as Shia, as I mentioned, that all of the Imams know about the time of their death, and they only die with their own permission to the angel of death. So what does this Shahada actually hold in terms of meaningful Islam? When Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam went towards Karbala and he knew that he would be martyred, what were the aims of Imam al-Hussain in standing up against Yazid from a theological level? The first reason was to expose Saqifa, to expose the crimes of the companions of Rasulullah, because these individuals were the very reason that Imam al-Hussain had to die. As we mentioned in the famous narration of Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, or Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says that the companions of Rasulullah, some of them that were evil, including the first Khalifa, the second Khalifa, they came together to plot against the Ahlulbayt alayhi salam. This is mentioned in the Ahadith. They came to plot and they wrote a document on which they wrote all their plan and their plots against Ahlul Bayt, to kill Rasulullah, to kill Amir al-Mu'mineen, to kill the Ahlul Bayt completely. This was the plan of these companions. They wanted to hijack Islam. So the Imam says, when that letter was written, Imam al-Hussain was killed. إِذَا كُتِبَ الْكِتَابِ قُتِلَ الْحُسَيْنِ. He says, once that letter was written, that document was written, Imam al-Hussain had to be killed. Why? Because by the death of Imam al-Hussain, by the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussain in 61 years after Hijrah, where Rasulullah only passed away less than 50 years ago, this individual, Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, who Rasulullah held in his arms, who he kissed on his forehead, who he said, I am from Hussain, Hussain is from me. May Allah love the one who loves Hussain. The one who said, Al-Hasan al-Hussain are Sayyid al-Shabab Ahl al-Jannah. This same Hussain would be standing on the plains of Karbala alone against all of these enemies. That would be the biggest proof until the day of judgment that this system of Khilafah has now been exposed. This is not the system that Rasulullah wanted. Otherwise his grandson would not stand alone on the plains of Karbala. This was one of the main aims of Imam al-Hussain, to expose the crimes of Saqifa. The second aim was to differentiate the people of truth. The Shia had not had a grounding theologically. The Shia existed, of course. Imam Ali alayhi salam had his Shia, the strong Shia, Salman, Abu Dhar, Miqdad, right? Ammar ibn Yasir. These Shia were strong, they were known. They were known to be strong in their support to Amir al-Mu'mineen, but their theology was not clear. Because at that point, Shi'ism was still very small in number. Imam al-Hussain wanted all of the Shia to unite on one political aim and one theological aim, and that was Karbala. So Imam al-Hussain here, he gives us the identity of being a Shi'i, and that's why we still carry on this understanding of having a Husayni identity. Every year, year in, year out, the Shia are known for this, for our love towards Imam al-Hussain. So this was the second aim of Imam al-Hussain. The third aim, and this is the long-term aim, is to set the path for the revenge of Imam Sahib al-Zaman. So you can see here that there is a long-term vision, a short-term vision, and a comprehensive understanding of what Allah wants from the Shahada in Karbala. As he said in that letter, Inna Allah qad sha'a an yarani qatila. Allah has wished to see me killed. Now, someone can still ask the question, Imam al-Hussain still did all of those things that led to his martyrdom. He went against Yazid, he left to go towards Kufa, and some people would call this an act of rebellion, right? So all of these things, don't they amount to suicide? Now that question would be a nonsensical question to ask. Why? Because we have examples of martyrs in Islam and martyrs prior to Islam. For example, we have the example of Nabiullah Yahya in the Qur'an. Nabi Yahya, he is known as a prophet in the Qur'an. Allah says to him, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Ya Yahya, khudh al-kitab biquwwa. Right? He says, Oh Yahya, take the book with strength, right? And Allah gave him leadership and wisdom in a young age. Allah told him, be firm, be upright on your principles. What happened to Nabi Yahya? Nabi Yahya was beheaded. And Nabi Yahya in the narrations of Ahlulbayt alayhi salam has a very, very, very close connection to Imam al-Hussain. Nabiullah Yahya, if his actions were the thing that got him beheaded, why did he go against the tyrant of his time? Why did he speak against them if he was going to get beheaded for that? If we look at the early martyrs in Islam, we look at the example of Sumayya, the mother of Ammar ibn Yasir. When she was being martyred, she was being asked, just denounce the religion of Rasulullah. Just denounce the religion. But no, she carried on praising Rasulullah. She carried on saying, no, I believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing that she will probably be killed for this. She knew that she's probably going to be killed for this, to the extent that she provoked the individual as well. When the individual was torturing her, she spoke against him harshly. She provoked him to the extent that they killed her. Does that mean that Sumayya is not a martyr in Islam? Does that mean she committed suicide? Of course not. She was standing for the truth, and in opposition to that, she was killed. She is a martyr. This is the same principle. Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, he is doing this for a greater purpose, the greater objectives of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who wish to see him martyred. That doesn't mean that the act of killing of Imam al-Hussain was a good thing, not at all. This was the most evil act that happened since the beginning of history. And all of creation will be held to account for the blood that was spilt on that day. But you can see here that Imam al-Hussain, he follows the mission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is there for greater objectives. بَلْ عِبَادٌ مُكْرَمُونَ. Rather, they are honored servants of ours. لَا يَسْبِقُونَهُ بِالْقَوْلِ وَهُمْ بِأَمْرِهِ يَعْمَلُونَ. That they do not precede him in speech, and they only act in accordance to his wishes. And Allah says in the Qur'an, وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. And you do not wish except that Allah wishes. And the greatest layer or the greatest ta'weel of this ayah is with regards to Ahlulbayt alayhim salam, because they share the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Imams say, إِذَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ شِئْنَا وَإِذَا شِئْنَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ. They say if Allah wishes something, then we wish that same thing. If we wish something, then Allah wishes that same thing. Their will is one and the same with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is not possible that Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam acts in defiance of the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the mission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I hope that's been a comprehensive and a short, brief answer with regards to the knowledge of the Imams alayhi salam, with regards to their deaths, and why it is not suicide, not from an apparent level or from a theological level. This is shahada on all of its levels. This is shahada from the perspective of on the apparent, in him standing up against a tyrant and oppression, and standing up against the religion being distorted. And on the theological level, this is complete submission to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was that Imam al-Hussain should be martyred in order to achieve these objectives. And Imam al-Hussain did not ever step back when Allah ordered him to do something. These are the Imams of Ahlulbayt alayhimus salam, and all of the Imams walked this path of sacrifice, in order to expose, in order to set the ground for Imam Sahib al-Zaman, and in order for the Shia to have an identity that is close to them. All of these objectives, you can say, apply to all of the Imams alayhimus salam. So no, none of the martyrdoms of the Imams can be counted as suicide. These are complete submission towards the mission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and these are shahada in all of their levels. Inshallah, I'll be back again next week, where we will be speaking about the rank of Al-Abbas alayhi salam, because it will be the 7th night of Muharram, and we hope we are able to give justice to that individual on the plains of Karbala without two arms. That is Al-Abbas. I'll see you again inshallah for that next week. Labbayka ya Hussein.